Okay, and we'll do the clap.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
This is my favorite part, by the way. Of the
You like the clap?
I like the clap. Are we good on that clap?
Yeah, I think
Was
we're
that
good.
satisfying? Okay, good.
This might be the world's first clap on, clap off podcast,
That would be awesome.
wouldn't it?
It could be a good retro for those of us old enough to remember
To remember the clap on, clap
clap
off,
on.
which was I don't know anyone that had it, but it was supposedly you could clap your hand and it would turn a lamp on or off, right? Wasn't it a lamp?
Exactly. Yeah, I remember seeing the commercials for that on KPLR Channel 11 from St. Louis as I was growing up on Cape Girardeau, and I just was in awe because I knew that if you had the ability to clap and turn your lamp on or off, that was a sign of ultimate sophistication, right? That you were super fancy then, and I dreamed of the day of growing up where I could clap my lamps on and off.
And now we have Alexa and all these things.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we're excellent. Well, any games you revisited recently? Tell me about. Hey,
well,
Daniel,
yes, yes,
Daniel. Have
yes,
you revisited any games recently?
yes. Were you trying to emphasize my name there? Should we
Oh,
introduce
I was
ourselves?
just trying. I was just being goofy.
Okay, that's it. Well, yes, my name is Daniel,
Hey, 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 hey!
and
Like
hey,
you're talking to someone else.
and hey, Kevin,
Hey.
Kevin.
What?
Your
What?
your name is Kevin. Should we welcome folks to this?
Yeah,
Really,
welcome you.
yeah.
Welcome.
So glad everybody here. This is episode 3 of Board Game Faith, where we explore the intersection of board gaming and religion and spirituality and things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And glad to be with you. Glad to be with you, Kevin, and glad to be with everybody who's listening. Thanks for tuning in.
Some of them will be listening in the future,
Right, right.
which is weird.
And that's true.
It could be in 4 years, and we're right. It's this could be a memorial podcast.
It could.
We
It could
both be gone.
And it could be in 4 years. Everybody has a clap-on lamp, and they're looking and they're listening to us now. They're saying, "What's the big deal?" Everyone has a clap-on lamp in the future.
Once our Martian overlords conquered us, the first thing they did was distribute clap-on technology.
That's really what gave them the technological edge. It was the clap-on lamps.
They didn't have to invade us. We were just so impressed. We
That's right.
just welcomed them.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, goodness.
So, and I do want to just also say, yes, happy belated birthday to you, Kevin. So you had
Thank you.
a birthday this past week,
Yes.
and you were saying it sounds like it was like you had a good birthday.
It was good. It was good. It felt normal.
Good.
Let's hope and pray that we can return to normalcy out of
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice to have those signs of glimpses of a life where COVID isn't the first thing one thinks about walking outside
Correct.
their door.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, I was going to ask you something. What was it? Forgot. Oh, right. Let me rewind. What board games have you revisited?
Yes, I will share, and I want to ask you too, and kudos, by the way, for this topic. I love this topic. Board games we have revisited recently.
Why do you love this topic?
Well, you and I were talking earlier, and I think you brought up this idea that we can sometimes in the hobby get so excited about the new games that we forget about like the games we've had with us for a while that are every bit as amazing as we were when we first got them, and kind of just encouragement to kind of help us not forget the games already in the collection, and to enjoy them, and not to feel like we always have to go out and get the latest and greatest for games.
Yes. Yeah, to beware the cult of the new.
Yeah,
Where you,
yeah,
because we naturally are interested in something that's new and different and shiny, like birds or.
absolutely. I love shiny
and
birds.
I like. They're terrible predators, though.
They're terrifying when you see them.
They're terrible because you see them coming.
True, that's true.
They're
That's
just
true.
sort of
That's true.
blinking in the sun, but
You're right.
yeah, it's so easy to fall in love with what's new, and part of it is the. It seems like the board game community is so oriented around YouTube and promotions and things because everyone's watching YouTube or reading
Yeah.
Board Game Geek, and that all of those, while those are great resources, they tend to, of course, they need something to talk about, so they end up talking about the new games and getting everyone excited, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and that it's fun. As we both have said, the new games are terrific. But,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but it's at a certain point you're going to need another house because your games have filled up your spaces.
Right. Right. And the old games are amazing too. Yeah.
Right.
So the game, the one game I have revisited recently that I want to share is really a very special one to my wife Kristen and me, because it was one of the very first hobby board games we got after getting into this hobby, and that is Roll for the Galaxy. Early on in this hobby, we got Roll for the Galaxy, and we cracked that out again a couple weeks ago, and I was just reminded what a great game that is. It's a really wonderful game. It's one of those games that, it's a pretty steep learning curve, a lot of iconography you have to, and at first, like a lot of games, the rules can seem a little fiddly, but once you learn them, as is true for most games, you see the logic in it and how it's played, and
I really love that feeling of a game being very difficult to understand, except after a while it starts to just make sense.
Yes.
So I find that kind of a weird, once you break through that wall and you realize like, oh, and then it becomes second nature,
Right.
because everything is this cohesive thing. You just had to get through you had to break that wall and get to that point. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I have not played Roll for the Galaxy, but I know it is a classic. And a lot of games have borrowed some of its systems.
Yeah, it really is wonderful. It has that action selection mechanism that I think it's that it and Race for the Galaxy shares, that has gone on to things like most recently like terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition. But
Meaning you can't take every action every time. Like you choose something, and that determines what everyone can do.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So you don't have freedom in terms of all your actions.
Right. And sometimes in the game, if you're the one that chooses the action, you get an additional reward. That's not the case in Roll for the Galaxy, but it's still, that's right. So it's kind of there's this psychological element where you're trying to guess what the other actions are that the other players are going to pick, because you would really like to take this action, but you'd also like to take this other action, and you think, well, is this other person going to pick this other action, so I don't have to pick it, so I can go with this, and trying to figure out the mindset of the other players and where they're coming from.
And I've never been good at that. I think just my own style. I like getting lost in a game.
Yes.
Maybe it's that narrative element that I like so much. So I will play and get excited about what I'm going to do and sort of forget to do the whole, well, what's Daniel going to do? That whole other level, if you remind me, I'll do it. But otherwise, I just get so excited. I'm just like the dog chasing the car. I'm just like, oh, fuck, I can't wait to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I'm exactly the same way. Kristen is much better at she'll know what I'm going to pick, and she'll then design her strategy around that. But me, I'm exactly the same as you. It's just, I want to pick this, and then I don't really think about what she picks. Plus, the other great element of the game is that it has just a mountain full of dice, just beautiful colored dice, more dice than a Hunt's can of petite diced tomatoes. It's a good.
It's terrible.
Really? I've been working all week on that one.
I'm debating whether if I throw myself out of the second floor window, it will end me, because that's I feel
but it is just beautiful. This beautiful mountain of colorful dice.
You can't fit a mountain of dice in a 16 ounce. 15 kilo whatever that is.
That's true.
Back to our metric jokes.
Well, I like it. Gives a good international flair to our listeners, and we have listeners
we do,
from various parts of the world, and we're so thankful for each of them. But yeah, so that's my revisited game. How about you? What's a game you've revisited recently?
We did break out Pandemic. It's maybe a month ago or so. And I haven't touched that in forever. And it's still a great game, but I don't know. It's almost like it doesn't call to me anymore. But I still want to keep it, and I treasure the memories, and I'm always up for playing it. But it's not. I don't know. It's kind of occupies a weird space. It's sort of nostalgic or something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think playing Legacy has changed how you relate to the original Pandemic?
Maybe the Legacy was so much better. I don't know, that it's hard to remember that the classic Pandemic is great. And I think part of it is, well, I mean, Pandemic feels painful at this point because of COVID, but
right.
Not really, I'm kidding, but it I don't know, Pandemic was so innovative. I guess so many things have there's so many other cooperative games. It's not quite as the singular type experience that it once was, where it just, but it's still great. It's still fun.
Yeah, certainly has inspired a lot of other games after it, for sure.
Right. So we did that one, and I also have a copy of Circadian's First Light, which is Garfield Games.
I don't know anything about that.
It uses dice, and the dice are the worker placement, which maybe Roll for the Galaxy is doing something similar. Like what you roll is what you.
Sort of.
Like if you roll a 4, you're going to use that 4 to do something.
Sort of, yeah. You place it's special. It's custom dice, so it's like it's a symbol on each side of the dice, but you use it to select actions. Yeah. So what's the theme of?
You're supposedly these different. Are you corporations? People? I don't know. You're different people on an alien planet, and you're trying to sort of colonize it, and you want to do the best job. So ultimately you will interact with these alien races and try to impress them. But to do that, you've got to do an engine building, got to build up and do some stuff. I don't know. It's a quirky game, and I think like Roll for the Galaxy, the little bit I guess I've seen, you roll dice, but it's hidden, and then you make your decision and reveal.
Oh, yeah, that's the same.
So it's got a bit of that, and it's got a good solo mode, and it's not terribly expensive. It's a cool game.
Cool.
So I actually am strangely obsessed with the Garfield Games people, because I only have two. Well, I have Circadians and I have Paladins of the Western Kingdom. It's the same publisher, New Zealand.
Yes.
But everything they do, it's not super expensive. It's small box, and the art's great. And Hadrian's Wall. Hadrian's Wall is one of theirs.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah, you really like Hadrian's Wall, don't you?
I really like Hadrian. And Dice Tower announced it as one of their games of the year. Not only solo game, but just game of the year, I believe.
That's great.
Yeah. Huh. I'm still terrible at it, though. Like, I do not see how you get 95 points and follow the rules.
Whoa. Is that the goal? Like, as on
it's
solo
my personal goal.
Okay.
And then I get like 4. It's not that bad. I can't break like 73. And because it's a roll and write type experience, you just tear off the sheet and play it again. Just like one more game.
Right.
Which is part of the joy of it.
Yeah.
That's easy to set up and easy to put up, and yeah, that's good.
And you said that was, you told me that was inspired in part by one of our favorite games, Fleet the Dice game. Is that right?
Yes.
Fleet the Dice game was
I think I read that.
Partial inspiration for that. Cool.
Mm-hmm. He wanted to recapture that. So I heard a bit of a podcast interview with the designer that is, I think his name's Bobby Hill.
Okay.
And Bobby Hill. And he said something funny. He said he can never remember stuff in terms of in a game. So everything is printed on the sheet just to remind you. And it's kind of hilarious because once you see it, you're like, yeah, it says twice per year. Like the little rules are everything, and everything you do, you mark down. So you don't have to ask, like, what did I do? Like everything is notated.
Okay.
So,
that's...
But again, it's great with modern technology that you can hear the board game designer discuss the game.
Yeah.
Could not have done that 20 years ago.
Right.
Maybe there's a magazine might have interviewed them if there was something like that. But you didn't have access to actually hear someone talk about it. It's really cool.
That's. What's the designer's name again? Danny. Bobby.
Bobby Hill.
Bobby Hill. Okay. Cool.
I'm going to type here. Let me confirm that before it goes to the future. Yeah, Bobby Hill.
Okay, Bobby Hill.
I probably remember that because our middle child is named Bobby.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, cool. Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
Those are great selections.
Yes. So we may have fed the cult of the new. I don't know.
I
maybe
think
not. Maybe not. At least you can buy these used, probably.
That's right. I think these are good revisited games.
Excellent. Well, you went to the East Coast recently.
Right. That's right. Yeah. I attended a conference. It was the National Conference on the Value of Play, and it was held at Clemson University, which is in Clemson, South Carolina, which for folks who may not know, South Carolina is on the kind of southeastern coast of the United States. And it was held April 3rd through the 5th. This has been a conference that's been happening for about 13 years now, annually. But this was the first one in a couple years in person, because they've been doing it virtual the last couple years. I think last episode when you asked me about it, I said I thought maybe about a couple thousand people there. I was totally wrong. It's about 80 to 100 people. But it was a lot of fun. It's sponsored by the U.S. Play Coalition, and it brings together every year. And this really, I think, makes it unique as a conference. It brings together a wide range of professions. It's not just gathered around one profession, but it brings together professions who share a common value or appreciation for the importance of play. Mm-hmm. And so we had medical doctors there. We had park rangers.
That is really neat.
It was neat. Yeah. Parks and rec.
Which is one of the things we love about board games. It brings different people together.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was, and kindergarten teachers, after school program directors, children's museum directors, and
a Methodist pastor was there.
A Methodist pastor. I was the only clergy, I think, which was fine. Which everyone was just very. I really didn't get people thinking that I was an odd duck or anything. I think which
was your sole mission in going.
Right. But everyone was very gracious, and let's be honest. When you find out someone's a pastor, sometimes it can feel kind of odd, but everyone was very gracious, and they didn't make me feel odd at all. And everybody seemed to be genuinely interested in this idea of. I had my board game faith business cards ready to go, and kind of this elevator pitch that this was a podcast on the intersection of spirituality and gaming, and board gaming specifically. And so it was a really good experience. I hope to go back again. I think you might.
So you will go back again. It was that good.
Yeah.
Where's next year's?
It's at Clemson every year.
Well, gosh, I should go because that's that's like a 3 hour drive for me.
Yeah, it would be great, Kevin. Actually, I could see us maybe wanting even to see if we could maybe talk about something there, maybe. But it was really good. I can go in a little bit, if you'd like, into some of the themes of it. But if I go in a different direction than you're interested in, let me know. But if there's one recurring theme to it all, I think it was the sense that play really is essential to human life, to the human experience, and I guess for me, I've talked about this before. I connect. Play and games kind of seem like kind of two sides of the same coin for me. It's so while the topic was not specifically on games, again, I think I've talked about this before that in so many languages, games and play are just the verb and noun form of the same word. And that games are, if we are playing, we are doing a game, and if we are involved in a game, we are playing. It's just the noun and a verb form of the same idea. Even if you think about like playing house, or that's still playing a game of make believe, playing a game of pretend, or and so this idea really came through a lot on the importance of play, the essential quality of play for human experience, both in terms of our, like from the scientific perspective, from our evolution, in terms of becoming socialized and developing empathy, in terms of education. Play is our first education. In terms of health and healing, we heard of something called the Global Healing Curriculum Project, which one of its founding core principles was on play. I should say, actually, there were I counted them up. There were 56 different workshops that you could attend. You could never attend all of them because 3 or 4 of them were always happening at the same time. So I attended about 17 different workshops over the course of these 3 days that I found interesting. And then because of this idea that play is so essential to human experience and human life, it also brought up this idea of becoming play advocates. And I love that idea, just the sense that one important cause to believe in and to advocate for is play, not just as something that's as secondary or extraneous to the human experience, but something that's really core to what it means to be human, and to advocate that and to advocate for that for our for children. Something that came up was, here in the U.S., there's some parts of the U.S. where, recess is not required, is not a required part of a child's day. And they also, talk about some other areas where maybe recess is 10 minutes per day. And they made the point that, people in the prison system have more time outside scheduled per day, than our own children in some areas, and just really seeing play as a basic human right.
Interesting.
And advocating for that. Yeah. So then that also got into topics of accessibility. What prevents people from participating in play in terms of accessibility issues. There was a really good workshop called Playing While Black, which talked about the experience of, especially of children who are African American, and some of the obstacles society often places on them for just playing, and yeah. So, anyways, and all of those things go into could go a lot more. But well, let me just say one more thing, and then I'll stop talking. But see if you have any thoughts. Or one of the persons there is a gentleman named Dr. Stuart Brown. And I didn't know him before this, but apparently he really is kind of the main guy for the pioneer for the scientific study, medical study of play in at least in the U.S. People would run up to him and they'd have selfies taken with him, and it's interesting. He talked about how he got into the study of play, and it's this really kind of backdoor way and I forget exactly why, but he was tasked with studying. I mean, it's a horrible subject, but somebody who had committed, it was a mass murder kind of event down in Texas years ago, and he was tasked with trying to understand why this person did this. And I mean, not that there's any rationale or reason for that ultimately, but what he found was a profound absence of play in this person's life as a child, and then Dr. Brown went on to study other people who were convicted of similar crimes, and found this recurring theme of just a deprivation of play as a child, and just so he became more and more interested in what role does play serve. In terms
How are they deprived of play? Like they had to work, or they were kind of left alone and they didn't know how to play? I'm curious what that means.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. That's a good question. I got the impression I got was kind of a home environment where children were just not allowed to be children, for a variety of reasons. Anyway, it was a very interesting study. And then I talked with my friend Dave, who is the director of the Center for Play and Exploration in Pittsburgh, and he said, he was saying the same thing. He said, yeah, that he's also familiar with Dr. Brown's work and his findings in that. And so anyway, it was that and other instances of just the importance of play for us developing as human beings and developing empathy and understanding and health, physical health. That was brought up too, and it's got me thinking about, what are ways, even as in the board gaming community, that we can promote physical health
sports
too.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, or even just,
there were some sports there as well, right?
There was some sports there. Yeah. Yeah. We had one night where we learned about tennis, structured in such a way that it's more accessible for persons in wheelchairs. It was a great event. It was just nice to be in a group of people who kind of all share this seemingly wild idea that play makes life better.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Play makes life better. Gosh, that's marvelous.
And adults. And,
Yeah. Interesting. I find the bit about children in play fascinating because there's a couple of things. One is because of entertainment that's always available through Netflix, YouTube. Kids, in some ways, are not able to play because it's easier to watch something. But then you've got Minecraft and Roblox, which are so popular, and those are kind of a virtual play.
Yes.
And Minecraft especially, it's not really competitive. It's building.
Right.
Or it's making... So one of my kids is into making Minecraft videos where it's almost like a music video. So he's found music and then he's filmed, he's created a Minecraft event and then sort of timed it to the music. And there's this whole culture of so it's almost a weird artistic sort of bent. And then they'll get together and play on Discord, which is most people probably know it's basically AOL Instant Messenger return, right?
Right.
But they'll get up with their friends and play Minecraft together or something else, and so some of that is the virtual play, but in school, hearing you talk about school, so much of recess is kids just left on their own.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If they get it, they're just supposed to maybe play in the park, or when they're younger, play in the park.
Right.
And it seems like some kind of structured play would be helpful, because in my experience, kids they need that adult to sort of say, we're going to play this. Because they need someone to otherwise they can't decide. So my 11-year-old will have a friend come over and they'll talk about playing a game, and then they don't want to set it up. Like there's no rudder.
Right.
And on the boat type thing.
Right.
And so sometimes I think kids are glad to have someone say, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Hopefully not in a dictatorial way, but just sort of saying, we're going to do this, and this is what we're going to do. And then it gives them permission to join in.
Right.
It also makes me think of the weird bits of in school. The games you did play might be soccer or baseball, and picking teams and kids not getting picked, or some kids are better than others. But that is part of play, the competition.
Yeah.
And so why aren't they maybe playing board games for recess? How do you provide some sort of structured play that includes people, and it's not just free-for-all or kids walking around the park bored? Right. And so all those are really interesting topics of trying to figure it out.
I love that. And I love that.
What kids need. Because adults are a little more, I want to do this. Kids are not always able to verbalize or don't.
Yeah.
Or don't have the attention span to set up the game.
True.
Or they're just lazy and they just want me to do it. My youngest is a master manipulator.
How old is he?
11.
Okay.
Yes. He could basically get anybody to do anything. Just give him enough time. Before you know it, you're making him a homemade ice cream sundae. You don't even know how it happened.
Wow. He sounds really talented.
Yeah. That's his X-Men superpower.
That's a good superpower,
I guess.
And is he the one who's making the Minecraft music videos?
He has, yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I've never
I'll
heard
send
of
you the
that before.
YouTube channel. So
thank you.
He can have 5 viewers. But yeah, that's kind of the stuff. He's interested in that, and the others have made some of those too.
Minecraft is a really interesting example of that. You're right. I mean, because it's on the one hand, you're right. It's like highly structured in a way. I mean, you're interacting with a program. Zeros and ones. But on the other hand, it's this. The zeros and ones allow for this kind of almost limitless creativity in terms of doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it's a sandbox experience.
Yeah.
And then there's all these ways, I don't fully understand it, but evidently you can create all these skins. So like variations of the game. And so you can give it a zombie theme, and you can have the character like zombies. And so people have created all these worlds, really.
Yeah.
And then you visit other worlds, and it's mostly kids doing this to kids, I think.
Have you played any Minecraft?
I did early on. I tried, and it had some neat stuff, but there's a lot of rules.
Yeah.
If you want to mine for ore, you have to build this and build that, and it's strange that I would think that'd push my buttons, but somehow I think the screen and the setting, it seems a little pointless.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that if it was in cardboard, I would be enthralled. I'm like, this is exactly, we are on Mars right now. And we have to do this, and the whole thing is absurd. But I fall for it in a way that Minecraft. But I don't know what the age range is on Minecraft. I suspect the passionate group are the tweens and others.
Yeah. It certainly has had staying power it's been around for quite a while now, and everyone seems to its popularity does not seem to be waning, or
no, it doesn't.
No, yeah.
And what my older son, 15, because I asked him about that, he said it is kind of the hackability of Minecraft is what he said.
Yeah.
Versus some other things. There's Roblox.
Yeah.
Roblox.
Yep.
But I don't think it has that hackability element to it.
Yeah. 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 I know our son, who's a computer science major in college. Yeah. I mean, he's created all sorts of mods for Minecraft.
Yes,
and
mods. That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, since this is a spirituality and religion podcast as well, I thought I'd share maybe kind of the one theological moment or a theological moment I had from the conference as well.
Excellent.
If that's it was during the keynote speech by a gentleman named Dr. Drew Lanham, who teaches at Clemson. And by the way, it seems like a really amazing human being. I encourage folks if they're interested to learn more about the conference, but also learn more about Dr. Lanham. But it occurred to me during his presentation that, if it's true that the word God is a word that we use ultimately to kind of, it's almost kind of a to talk about a reality that is bigger than what we can fully comprehend. There's that old quote, that says the word God the word God itself is a metaphor, but just the sense of that that God is what we call this mystery that our 3 pounds of gray matter can never fully understand. If there is this creative force behind this universe that's billions of light years across, well, of course, there's no way our little 3 pounds of gray matter could ever fully understand that. And so God is how we talk about that. It's kind of a placeholder for this concept we can never fully get. If it's true that there are different ways of kind of talking about these mysteries, then it occurred to me at some point during his talk that I think the words grace and play are kind of getting at the same thing too. That, if they're both getting at this idea of kind of this unforced acceptance, this unforced space where folks don't have to prove anything, or produce anything, and can just be, and so anyway, that was for me. That was kind of a theological takeaway moment from the conference that I'd like to explore more. But this idea that I wonder whether grace and play are maybe two different ways of talking about the same reality. And if so, go ahead, Kevin.
No, you go ahead. I'm still.
Yeah. Well, and if so,
I'm still percolating this. Yeah,
that's fine. If so, then that makes games kind of a means of grace in a way. That games are kind of a means of participating in this graceful moment where everybody is kind of welcome and accepted around a table, and again, they don't. Anyway, it kind of helped me to think of games as some kind of means of grace, and play as a graceful moment.
Yeah. Gosh.
And that might be off out of left field.
If we think of grace as pardon, as forgiveness, or as erasing a negative moral balance, like almost like a checkbook. Mm-hmm. I don't think play is exactly that, unless it's like a child just coloring outside the lines, or knocking a sandcastle over, and the sandcastle is your sins, or however you want to frame it.
Right.
But if we think of grace as against the backdrop of law, then you're almost getting at the fact that play comes against the backdrop of the rules. There's the rules to the game, but then they're enacted.
Yeah.
Right? And so if grace is sort of a graceful living, which is how do we play these rules in a way that creates something special?
Yeah, yeah.
And there may be winners or losers, and how to even negotiate that reality.
Oh,
Like you and I, let's say you and I have played a game 4 times and I've lost every time.
I don't think there is.
You know,
such a
how do
game,
we, and it's almost what you do with your kid, right? Do you let them win?
Right.
But then, right. And so there's these moral conundrums there. And I don't know how you deal with that exactly. But the fact that in Martin Luther, the great Protestant reformer, like and Paul in the New Testament, Apostle Paul, that the law is still true. It's just in a weird way that, so the Old Testament, the law, all these things are still true, but because of sin, they create almost a allergic response to us. Like they create more sin. And so the need for grace to live right in the law. As I state that, I'm better back up. I may be confused. I don't know enough about Luther to say, but Paul's trying to walk the line of grace is forgiveness, but the law is still... Law and grace somehow say the same thing.
Right, right.
And along that line, somehow something's happening within the magic circle and the rules that's not just the rules.
Yeah.
But you can't get the grace without the law. Like they're two sides of one coin. Yeah, that is Luther. They're two sides of one coin, law and grace, in a weird way, right?
That is good. Yeah, I like that.
And you can't live under law without some grace, but you don't have grace without the law. I don't know. But I'm not sure what grace is then. But it's a sort of a dynamic experience of something.
Right. The parallel between the rules of a game and law. That's cool. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, I was trying to make sense. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, as you're saying that, I thought, well, then what is grace if it is some kind of a play? And there's a structure. And taking the creation story, Genesis 1, God creates with a structure.
Right.
Day and night. And so there's this structuring element in which Adam and Eve can romp around naked with animals. Keep an eye on the lion. He still might bite you.
Right. That's so interesting. Yeah. I have to think about that, but I love that. I think, for me, I think of grace. Well, you're helping me to kind of think through some other aspects of this, which I really appreciate. I guess grace, I think of, as kind of this acceptance. But you're right. I mean, an acceptance implies there would be a reason why people think they wouldn't be accepted. Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, or some kind of, yeah. That's cool.
It's tough. These basic words like faith or grace or love, they're so inherently messy once you start trying to get specific.
Yeah.
Which is the goal of theology in a lot of ways, but it does get complicated.
Right, yeah.
But that's, trying to, what does this mean? It's hard to answer.
Yep. Well, I think you helped to give me some more clarity on it. So thank you.
Right. I just hope I didn't get Luther wrong. There's going to be one random Luther scholar out of Sweden who's going
to call you on it.
Yeah, I'm going to get a tweet storm. Could get tweet stormed.
That is not what Luther was saying.
It sounds good to me. You're probably right.
Yeah.
Who does?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's so hard. Like, there's things there's things you've read and know, and there's things you know about and you haven't read, and it gets a little messy at times.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, like Roll for the Galaxy. I know about that game.
Right.
But I don't actually know that game.
Yeah. I think many things in life is in that latter category.
Knowing about stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, well, maybe that conference, that sounds really cool, especially if it's not just board games, and it's not just publishers of board games trying to, right, but sort of, which is, I mean, I've never been to a board game convention, so it's got to be fun and great. But this is giving you not that not that experience again of the flashy new, but more of, I guess, a philosophical approach.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. In fact, games specifically board games were almost non-present there. There was one toy and game designer who was there, who was selling a game and that he designed, and that actually I got to play it with him. It was really fun, and I bought a copy. But yeah, you're right. Overall, it was just about kind of the philosophical and scientific underpinnings of play, you know, that that go into making games so meaningful and important to so many of us.
Were there any wild receptions?
There was a social.
Was it lit?
it was lit, and furthermore, it was turnt.
What's that? I haven't heard that one.
Turnt.
Turnt.
Turnt. TURNT. Which I understand from the kids is another way of saying lit.
Turnt.
It was lit and turnt, and as Guy Fieri would say, off the hook. So yeah, there were some social events at night. I went to a little bit of them. That's where I went to play the game with the gentleman. But then I also just went back to my room and played some solo board games too. So
what'd you play?
I played Agropolis, which is the sequel to Sprawlopolis. Sprawlopolis is one of my favorite solo board games.
Interesting.
It's a card game. It's one of those little button shy 18.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, talked about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing. And then what else did I play? Oh, Orchard, which is my most played game of all time. It's a solo only game, and it's a fun game where you have a deck of 18 cards that are different types of trees in an orchard, and you have to just overlap them, splay them in different ways. And you put dice on top of where they overlap to indicate how many times they're overlapped and how much fruit they're producing. And it's so
kind of a puzzle game.
It's a puzzle game, yeah.
Like Sprawlopolis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And they're really small. You can pop them in your suitcase, and they're great. Yeah. I find if I don't play a game, one game a day, I miss it. Even just like a little, and you know, most of the time it turns out to be one of these little 10 to 15 minute, you know, solo games that almost no setup time, you know, but it's for me, that's kind of become how I unwind at the end of a day, you know, just.
I think you're not alone, and I miss it as well. I can go, right, I do kind of, although I find if I play a lot and I keep losing, like at Hadrian's Wall, or losing my expectations, then I can get kind of grumpy. But sure. Yeah, I do. There is sort of this need to, I guess it's like turning on the television or something. It's sort of it's a comforting friend that can help you unwind.
Yeah.
Type thing. So, everybody is different.
Yeah.
Some people maybe gardening or, I don't know, riding their motorcycle. I don't have a motorcycle.
No motorcycle.
I've never ridden a motorcycle, but I guess they would feel sweet, sweet freedom if you're into it.
Yes. I've ridden it once. I've ridden a motorcycle once. It was terrifying.
Was Kristen's?
It was terrifying. No, it was it was a dear man, a pastor. I was doing a pastoral internship in seminary, and he was kind enough. It was very nice of him. He was kind enough to offer me a ride on the back of his motorcycle. And so I sat on the back and held on for dear life around his waist, and we went maybe, I don't know, 2 miles down the road. But it was bless those out there who like motorcycles. But for me, it was quite scary. I think what especially struck me was just how seeing the pavement go by, you know, at 60 miles per hour, and realizing that there was absolutely nothing between me and that pavement.
Yeah.
So
just go limp.
Go
Hope
limp.
You bounce. Yeah.
That's my approach to many things in life. Yeah. So that's good.
The fainting, do the fainting, fainting sheep or fainting goat?
Exactly right.
Just
no one will pay attention to you if you fainted. That's right.
Exactly.
The Martian overlords will pass over you.
I'm all for Darwin and evolution and everything, but explain to me how that evolved. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, if evolution's so great, why aren't my fingers webbed so I can swim faster?
That's a good question.
Or even your feet, right? Like, just think how awesome. Like, do we really need separated toes? Why can't we have webbing?
I want webbing now that you bring it up.
Then we could give the dolphins really show them who's boss.
Dolphin.
We go flying past the dolphins, laughing at them.
That's right.
With their webbed feet. Yay, Darwin! Where's my feet? Anyway, okay. I just like making fun of science for not giving me everything I want. It's just, that's all.
Eventually, well, you had a disappointing experience with the clap-on lamp.
Correct.
Yeah.
So next week,
yes,
we're doing a book club,
a book discussion. I'm so excited about this, Kevin. Yeah, you were saying before we started recording that this is something kind of unique. This is something unique that I really haven't seen in other podcasts. That from time to time we're going to be discussing a book, and if our listeners would like to read the book ahead of time, and it's kind of preparation for the podcast, they're welcome to do that. We'd love to, and you could even send us your thoughts on it, at our email at boardgamefaith@gmail.com. But yes, so next week
or through Instagram.
Or Instagram.
Board Game Faith on Instagram.
Yeah. Next podcast, we are talking about the book, The Grasshopper.
Yeah, I shouldn't say next week, 2 weeks.
Right. You're right.
Right, I misspoke. It's
called The Grasshopper, and it's by a philosopher. He's passed away now, but his name is Bernard Suits, like a suit jacket, Suits. And the subtitle is Games, Life, and Utopia. Games, Life, and Utopia. The Grasshopper by Bernard Suits. And
we hope people will engage in the discussion. I have not read it. You have read it. I'm going to be reading it. We're doing, I guess, chapter 1. What was the assigned reading?
Oh, you know what,
Professor?
Actually, I hadn't even thought about that. We can talk about that if you want to. I don't know. Well, how about we put that out there on social media? We'll say what we're reading for next time.
Right. Just read some of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had mentioned beforehand. It's a very thought-provoking book. It's an unusual book. It's a very odd in some ways, and that we probably should let folks know in some ways, just occasionally it ventures into what would probably be considered some R-rated categories and territory. So if that's something you think you might have, you might have some trouble with, just be aware of that going into it.
Right. Just listen to us. This podcast is not R-rated, but
right.
For whatever reason, and you've got me curious now, but this book does venture into some potentially, I don't know. Yeah, just be forewarned.
Yeah, so if you decide, as you said, we won't be talking about that in our podcast, but if you decide to read it on your own, just to be aware of that ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So,
very good, very good. And we wish a happy Ramadan or blessed Ramadan to Muslim friends out there, and of course, happy Easter.
Yes,
is coming up for us Christian folks.
Yep. Some nice holy day moments for a lot of us right now, and Passover as well, I believe.
Oh, right.
Yes. Yeah.
Look at that. The Abrahamic religions.
Yep.
Lining up. I love it.
So
just show me where to park, right? We're all on it.
Yep. Happy blessed days to all of our listeners.
Yes.
Whatever that might mean for you. We're grateful for each of you.
Talk to you soon. Thanks, Daniel.
All right. Thanks a lot. I think we should clap off the episode.
We're going to clap off.
You ready?
Board Game Faith.
Okay. 1,
Instagram.
2, 3.